This shocking monk's insane seduction method haunts women forever at midnight. The moon hung low and heavy over the village, casting shadows that twisted and turned like a snake, lurking just out of sight. Whispers of the monk's dark powers electrified the air, as if a storm was brewing, threatening to break. It was said that at the stroke of midnight, he summoned the souls of the lonely, drawing them to him with an eerie, melodic chant that echoed through the night. Many claimed to have heard it an enchanting lullaby laced with a sinister undertone, pulling them from their sleep and into the unknown. As the clock struck 12, a chill swept through the streets. Street lamps flickered, casting ghostly shadows on the peeling paint of old houses. Women who had crossed paths with the monk spoke of inexplicable feelings, like a velvet curtain draped over their hearts. A tingling sensation crawled up their spines, leaving them breathless and wanting more, shaking their fists at their own fragility. The local tavern, usually bustling with laughter, was now filled with hushed tones, swirling rumors of a figure shrouded in mystery. "Have you seen him?" someone gasped. "They say he can make you feel things you never thought possible." Another chimed in, eyes wide with fear and excitement. The air thickened with tension. These stories had a life of their own. Every woman's heart raced at the thought of encountering him, but fear held tight, like iron shackles wrapped around their souls. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Rumors spread like wildfire, igniting curiosity and horror in the same breath. It was said that once a woman answered the monk's call, she was marked for life, forever haunted by an unspeakable exhilaration that tugged at the corners of her heart. And suddenly, old tales resurfaced, forgotten relics of love and loss that gripped the entire village. Doors creaked open, rogue winds howled through alleyways, and those brave enough to seek him never returned the same. As townfolk traded frightened glances, the night settled deeper. Could the seductive power of the monk have a more sinister twist? Or would his allure leave an indelible scar on those who sought his enigmatic embrace? The clock neared the witching hour once again, and as curious souls began to stir, a bone-chilling scream erupted from the darkness, leaving everyone frozen in terror. Who was he really? What dark secrets lay hidden beneath his captivating charm? The scream echoed through the village like a banshee wail, sending chills rippling down spines and hearts racing with panic. The tavern door burst open, and a disheveled figure stumbled in, her hair wild and eyes wide with terror. It was Clara, the baker's daughter, well known for her laughter and warmth. But now, breathless and trembling, she brought a haunting tale. They were there. She gasped, gripping the edge of the bar as if it were her last lifeline. The monk. He was singing and there were shadows dancing around him. Fear rippled through the tavern. The comforting clink of mugs fell silent. Patrons leaned in, breath held, drawn to her words like moths to a flame, even though they knew instinctively the danger that lay in his charm. He called to me, Clara continued, her voice a frantic whisper. I felt alive in a way I can't explain. But then, it shifted, darkness wrapped around me like a noose. I could hear their whispers, the women who'd gone before. Trapped. Murmurs spread through the room, eyes widened, hearts clenched. Some women in the tavern had already felt the pull of the monk's call. They glanced around, uncertain, dejected faces masking their hidden desires. Suddenly, from a darkened corner, an elderly woman spoke, her voice quaking but resolute. I saw them, Clara. Last night, as the clock struck 12, I saw the shadows. They weren't just there, they danced like spirits, lured by his chant. And I swear, I recognized faces, women from our village. They were lost. A chilling silence enveloped the tavern, and the air grew thick with dread. Clutching each other's arms, the women exchanged panicked glances. Was it worth it? To pursue a fleeting thrill, only to be left forever tainted by the monk's intoxicating grasp. Just then, a loud bang reverberated outside. The windows trembled as if nature itself was stirring at the thought of the approaching midnight. An inquisitive girl, who had been silent among the crowd, glanced towards the door. What if we confronted him? What if we band together? Her call to action sparked flickers of courage and defiance within the gathering, but doubt lingered just beneath the surface. We could end this madness. Some whispered, while others shook their heads in quiet resignation. They were torn between fear of the unknown and the seductive promise of liberation that his chance whispered. Outside, street lamps flickered, and the shadows grew restless. The clock tower, looming in the distance, seemed to beckon them closer, ticking down to the inevitable midnight hour. Could they stand against the monk's hypnotic pull? Or were they destined to become mere whispers themselves, lost in the night? As the hands of the clock inched closer to 12, Clara's heart raced. Her story echoed in her mind, enwinding with new determination. A chance to reclaim what was theirs, to confront the source of their madness. But what if confronting him only awakened darker forces? The tavern air thickened with possibility, shadows danced outside, and as the clock struck, a trembling sound wove through the silence, a siren's song rising from the depths of the darkness. Was it merely the winds or the monk, inviting them to join him once more? The women stood at the precipice of decision, defense against allure battling against the desperate need for connection. Would they face their fears together, or succumb one by one to the secrets of the night? The questions hung heavily in the air, and as an unsettling stillness fell upon the room, the next scream pierced the silence. But this time, it was not clear whether it was one of fear or desire. What truth lay behind the veil of the monk's seductive power? The air buzzed with electric tension, each whisper in the tavern curling around the fear like fog on a cold morning. Clara's heart thudded in her chest, a frantic drum echoing in sync with the tolling clock. Outside, the moaning wind layered on its own urgency, beckoning the women to make their choice. Let us go. Now. The girl who had first dared to speak was rising, her determination shining through fear. The others hesitated, but the palpable panic that had gripped them began to ignite a flicker of rebellion. They couldn't let the monk's call be stronger than their own. Clara clutched her stomach, uncertainty raging within her. What if he manipulates us? What if we lose ourselves to him? A voice from the back, steady and firm, broke the doubts. What's worse? Living a life in shadows or confronting them? We owe it to those who are lost. Those words caused a ripple among the women, igniting sparks of conviction. Slowly, they began to rise, some gripping the tables as they steadied themselves against superstition and fear. With reluctant steps, they moved toward the door. The tavern door swung open, creaking ominously as they stepped into the biting night. The air thickened. Even the shadows seemed to hold their breath. The street wore an eerie quiet, the village transformed under the pale moonlight. The clock tower loomed ominously, its hands frozen at midnight. And at the edge of the village, there he stood, the monk, cloaked in darkness but illuminated by his own hypnotic aura. Come to me, his voice dripped with syrupy seduction, coiling around the women like an embrace. It was more than a beckoning, it felt alive, burrowing deep into their minds, stirring long-buried desires. Clara tasted bile in her throat. Stay back! She shouted, raising her hands to ward him off. A few women faltered, eyes glazed over as they struggled against the pull. I want to go to him just for a moment. What's the harm? No. Clara could feel tears prickling her eyes. Not again. Not to lose another. We can't let him have us. Suddenly, faint silhouettes emerged around the monk, faces that swirled and flickered in the darkness like ghostly reminders. Women they all knew, their features twisted with yearning and despair, swept away by the monk's song, forever trapped. The realization ignited a fire in Clara's heart. See? They're lost. Don't let him trick you. We have to fight. A chorus of conflicting feelings rose, some pulling toward the monk, while others gathered strength from Clara's pleas. The struggle played out in their eyes, reflecting a battle of survival against intimate seduction. As Clara fought against the influence, she felt another presence creeping into her chest, a forceful urge to step closer, to lose herself to the melody that tempted her like a siren's call. It felt like freedom, but was it worth the cost? Determined to resist, Clara turned to her companions, screaming, "We're stronger together. Let him see our unity." Women began to close ranks, hands clasping each other tightly, drawing strength from one another. The monk's face twisted in annoyance, shadows swirling more aggressively, threatening to consume them all. "You belong to me. I can give you power, pleasure, just let go." His promise of euphoria sliced through the air, pulling and clawing at the edges of their sanity. But as desperate cries resonated out of the shadows, something peculiar happened, a rift in his power. The women began to chant, voices rising above the seductive call, drowning out his whispers with their unity. "We are one. We are whole." They echoed it, their combined strength shaking the very ground beneath their feet. In an instant, the atmosphere shifted. The world felt heavy, as if the balance teetered on a razor's edge. Clara clenched her fists, heart hammering. Would it be enough to shake his grip? Or had they stirred a darkness far beyond their comprehension? Just as the monk's expression darkened, twisting with rage and fear, a flash of light erupted from their clasped hands. Clara's body surged with raw, burning energy. And the darkness screamed. The ground beneath them trembled, leaves rustled violently, and then, silenced at it, left behind only a shivering stillness, the echo of that unearthly melody ringing in their ears. But before anyone could catch their breath, shadows began to reform, dense and looming, as if reborn with vengeance. What lay beneath that quiet stillness? Had they truly shattered his charm, or had they unwittingly made him more powerful? An inexplicable chill ran through Clara as fear pulsed anew. In the heart of the darkness, a new whisper curled around them. What would this night bring, and could they withstand the forces they had not yet understood? Silence hung thick in the air, almost oppressive, as the shadows stretched toward the women like tendrils of smoke. Clara's breath quickened, panic clawing at her chest. They had fought back, hadn't they? But now, as darkness reformed around them, an icy dread flooded her veins. The monk's fury was palpable. "Don't break the circle!" Clara shouted, the urgency escalating in her voice. Their hands were still clasped tightly, but someone's grip wavered. Fear had a way of making people doubt their strength, their unity. The monk stepped closer, his voice now low, seductive like honey dripping from a spoon. "You think you can escape me? You think you can resist desire? You'll see you'll come to crave it." At that moment, a shrill scream broke through the tense night. Clara's heart sank as she recognized the voice, the girl who had stood beside her, the one who had initially rallied the others. "No. Don't listen to him. Fight, don't." But the scream faded into the night, swallowed by the consuming dark as the girl's silhouette dimmed and vanished. It was all too easy to feel the grip of despair tightening around them. "Focus!" Clara yelled. "Stay with me. Eyes on me." The remaining women looked at each other, their faces streaked with uncertainty. Clara felt her facade of strength falter as the monk's laughter echoed like a taunt. Shifting the weight of her fear into determination, Clara took a deep breath. "We're not them. We will not be shadows. We can become light. Look within, and find your voice." With a fierce shout, she began to chant, fueling her own courage through memory. "We are whole. We are strong." The mantra resonated, each repetition wrapping around their entwined hands like a lifeline. Each woman voiced her resolve, growing louder, building, solidifying. And yet, the monk advanced, his figure shifting like a mirage in heat. "You think you own your fate?" He sneered, the shadows swirling around him, growing denser, pulsing with dark intention. "Come. Step into the abyss and find your truth. You can still be mine." Clara felt the approach of despair, but within her, a flicker remained. "We have lost too much. It's time to reclaim ourselves. In that moment, she saw the faces of the lost women, their spirits writhing behind the monk, shadowy, haunting. But Clara's chant remained unwavering. The energy from the ground surged, vibrating through her as though the very earth was standing behind her. Strengthen your light. A voice broke through Clara's haze, a woman she had seen before, tears streaming anew down her cheeks. Turn it into a shield. Let us do this together. Clara cried, her voice melding with hers and the others. They began to chant as one, hearts ignited with the warmth of defiance. We are stronger together. We will not falter. The monk screeched, a furious howl that sliced through the air. For the first time, he seemed to hesitate, the shadows around him flickering like candlelight. But that flicker transformed into an explosion. The shadows erupted outwards, a violent twist of dark energy that pushed them back, rattling their grip. Clara faltered for just a second, but then she felt the warmth of every hand in her circle. It pulled her back, just as they thought they couldn't hold on any longer. A tremendous shockwave erupted from their joined hands. Light burst forth, cascading in all directions and illuminating the darkness in a brilliant flash. Clara! Look! Someone shouted, the awe mixing with terror. As the glow spread, the silhouettes of the lost women began to emerge, their faces shifting from despair to determination. They, too, were chanting, their voices merging with the living, creating a symphony of hope and resistance. But amidst that rising power, Clara caught a glint from the monk's eyes, a cold realization dawning: this wasn't over. Then, in a swift, blinding instant, a jagged rift opened, casting sharp shadows that flickered like a heartbeat. The monk's form twisted, writhing in anguish yet growing monstrous and powerful. You're playing with forces you can't understand. He roared, extending a hand toward the growing light. What had they unleashed? Before Clara could ponder, the ground trembled again, and cracks began to spread like spider webs beneath their feet. Just like that, they were reminded nothing was as it seemed. Hold tight! Clara screamed, the glow pulsating around them. But as the shadows surged, creeping closer and closer, doubt seeped in once more. Had they awakened an even greater evil? Now, as the air thickened and tension reached a fever pitch, one question hung in the silence: was this victory, or merely the beginning of an endless nightmare? Light and darkness clashed in a bittersweet ballet, the shockwave reverberating through Clara's very core. She could feel the power from the circle swell, responding to their unified spirit, but just as quickly, it dissipated like smoke, lost amid the chaos the monk had conjured. The rift pulsed ominously, nearly breathing, and Clara's throat tightened as she tried to hold on to her composure. Don't look away, she urged, her eyes darting from one frightened face to another. They were teetering on the edge, and every heartbeat felt like it could be their last. The monk's laughter echoed, menacing, sinking under their skin like a chill that refused to disappear. Do you truly believe you can vanquish me? He taunted, his voice smooth, draped in danger. This is merely the beginning of your descent. I will have you all. Shadows lashed out at their circle, like whips searching for prey, and Clara felt her heart hammering in a wild dance of fear and defiance. Fight back! She shouted, determination weaving her voice into the fabric of their collective chant. Do not let him win. They began again, hands tightening like a vice, their voices rising, overlapping into a glorious cacophony. We are whole. We are strong. The air thickened with energy, and the glow flickered, bouncing around them intangible, electrifying. Yet, wave after wave, the shadows lashed out, their angry whispers clawing at Clara's ear, bringing stories of despair and helplessness that pulled her heart low. Every faint shadow was a reminder of the souls they had lost. But Clara steeled herself, a bright ember of fierce resolve igniting within. Together! Clara cried, resisting the despair threatening to win. The chant surged into a battle cry, and in unison, they fought against the darkness, echoing their resolve. The glowing energy flared, and for a moment, Clara felt invincible, then another tremor shook the ground, more violent, more vicious. The rift widened, its jagged edges slicing through the air, and the darkness rushed forward, swallowing the light they had fought so hard to create. Clara's breath caught in her throat as she felt the vast emptiness swirling around her. She stumbled but steadied herself, fierce resolve transforming panic into an instinct to push through. "We can do this," she urged, echoing the fire she could feel beneath her skin. "Let us not just resist, let us take back our power." The monk unleashed a scream, vibrating with rage. "Your power!" He lunged forward, an unstoppable force, shadows swirling into a storm of chaos. "You know nothing of the true depths of your fear. You will know me just as they did." But then the rift shuddered, struggling under the weight of uncontrollable energies. Clara saw the collective fear etched across each woman's face, but there too was a flicker of hope, buried deep. She seized it, channeling the collective memory of anguished cries and fierce defiance. "Remember our strength. Remember who we are," she implored, feeling connection surge like liquid fire. That flicker of hope ignited into flames, swirling, engulfing them as if they were a wildfire spreading with ferocity. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for every woman claimed by this monster. Clara pushed through the shadow's treachery, her feet planted. "Together. Now." They chanted louder, condensation of desperation and defiance bursting from them like a storm unleashed. The atmosphere thickened, crackling with raw energy, a vibrant snap that was palpable. But just as the power peaked, the rift heaved violently, shadowy fingers reaching out, trying to snatch Clara and the others into its depths. As the shadows closed in, Clara's heart raced. It was now or never. Would they crumble into the darkness or shatter the chains binding them to despair? And then, amidst the chaos, a voice broke through, cutting like a knife. "Clara! Trust me." But trust had become a fragile thread, woven through the fabric of their very reality. In that moment, Clara faced the depths of uncertainty. Who could she truly trust? A choice loomed large before her. As shadows loomed and pulsed, she could sense that whatever they unleashed next might either save them or seal their fate forever. Whispers of doubt crept closer, but could she shake them off in time? With the tension building to its breaking point, one question vibrated through the chaos: what would they sacrifice to become the light? Clara's mind raced. The darkness clawing at her felt like a living thing, hungry and relentless. The voices surrounding her began to blur. Everyone looked to her, the weight of their hopes pressing down on her like a mountain. "Trust me" echoed in her ears, but who was speaking? The shadows writhed, pulsing with energy, feeding off their fear. "Focus," Clara implored, her voice trembling but fierce. "Think of the lives we can save." She gripped the hands of her companions tighter, feeling the heat and heartbeat of their resolve. The monk's laughter roared, drowning out her words like a monster consuming a lament. With a surge of adrenaline, she charged forward. "I'm not afraid." The words spilled from her lips, desperate yet defiant. It was a declaration, aimed at the monk, but also an affirmation for herself. They were backed into a corner, and now confrontation was the only option. The shadows seemed confused, hesitating in their assault. "You think your courage can save you?" The monk sneered, his form flickering between solid and ethereal, a dark mockery of humanity. "You are merely a flicker in my storm." Clara felt the others rally behind her. There was strength in their unity, crashing around her like waves against stone. "We are the storm," they shouted back, and in that moment, Clara knew. They could turn the tide, but only if she surrendered to the energy swirling around them. Then, something shifted. A burst of light erupted from the ground, illuminating the chaos. Clara's heart surged with brightness as the rift throbbed in sync, a clarion call. If we can just draw it out, she thought. What was once a claustrophobic prison of shadows was now an arena for their defiance. The monk's expression twisted into fury as the shadows writhed, trying to escape this newfound power. Clara could feel the weight of her fear begin to lift. "Now!" she screamed, her voice cutting through the cacophony. Channel everything. Our strength, our stories, they will repel this darkness. In the pulsing luminosity, faces shifted from terror to hope. Clara's heart raced as energy surged from her hands to her companions, forming brilliant threads of light. They glowed like celestial beings, batting back the darkness with every shattering pulse of power. Fight! The monk bellowed, thrashing like a trapped beast. Shadows lashed at them in wild fury. They pushed harder, their chant harmonizing, transforming into a symphony of vigor and vengeance. We will rise. We will shine. But just as Clara felt the surge of victory within reach, the ground shook violently. The rift twisted and tremored beneath them, and its malevolent voice rumbled through the air. You will regret this insolence. This is not over. The darkness roared with intensity, swallowing chunks of the luminous battle they'd been building. Clara stumbled back, breathless, watching fragments of light splinter away, flickering like dying stars. What if their courage wasn't enough? What if this was merely a prelude to agony? Gather! She called, voice cracking, desperate to pull them back from despair's embrace. But a new whisper, a chilling one, slithered through the air. What if you cannot save them? Clara's heart sank. Doubt burrowed deep, battling the flickering embers of hope. A glimpse of a dark figure moving behind the monk caught her eye. Shadows shifted, warping reality. What was lurking there? A darker truth? Perhaps a more insidious threat. She swallowed hard, heart pounding. We will not back down. We will fight until the end. But every pulse of energy began to flicker, uncertainty creeping in like chilling fog. Was it really their collective power driving the darkness back? Or was it just a temporary facade? As Clara looked into the depths of the rift, a thought pierced through the haze. What if the light they summoned only cloaked an even greater horror yet to reveal itself? The last remnants of their glow crackled, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something infinitely darker, a choice that could either lead to freedom or obliteration. As questions loomed large in her mind, the rift shuddered violently, ready to unleash whatever horror lay within. What lay ahead? Would they dare to venture deeper into the unknown? Clara felt a jolt of panic as the rift churned ominously beneath her feet. Shadows twisted and contorted, curling into shapes that seemed both familiar and terrifying. Each pulse of darkness whispered her deepest fears, echoing doubts she had only dared to entertain in the darkest corners of her mind. Clara! Shouted one of her companions, a young man named Leo, breaking through the oppressive gloom. His voice cut through her fear like a knife. We need to hold on to each other. We're stronger together. She turned to him, seeing the fierce determination etched into his features. It reminded her of the light they had harnessed moments ago. It sparked something within her. You're right. We can't let this thing, whatever it is, consume us. We have to push it back. The others surged forward, hands clasped firmly, creating a circle of unity despite the encroaching shadows. Clara focused on them, channeling her fear into something tangible, something they could fight against. Remember why we are here. Every one of us carries a story worth telling, something that can light the way. From somewhere behind the monk, a faint glow began to trickle into the chamber, but it was swallowed swiftly by the darkness. The monk, his features a mask of wrath, raised an arm to summon forth the shadows, and they lashed out like serpents, trying to snatch away their hope. Foolish children, he hissed, his voice reverberating with a power that made the ground tremble. You think you can resist me? I am the master of this darkness, and I have lived eons longer than any of you. Your little spark will extinguish. Clara's heart raced. She could feel the breath of despair creeping in, but she wouldn't let it crush her spirit. We're not just sparks. We're a blaze waiting to ignite. She cried, her voice rising above the malevolent chorus. Leo squeezed her hand tighter. Let us show him. They closed their eyes, together, drawing strength from one another. Clara felt the energy thrum in their linked hands, vibrating as though it carried a life of its own. They breathed in unison, hearts beating as one. Then, they released a collective shout that shattered the oppressive air. Together. We will rise. Light flashed, radiant and all-consuming, filling the dark space with warmth and clarity. The monk flinched, shadows recoiling as though struck. Clara felt a surge of power pour through her, igniting her resolve. This was their moment. But just as they began to drive the darkness back, something twisted within the rift. An unearthly roar erupted, and another figure emerged from the depths. Darker than the shadows themselves, it was a grotesque amalgamation of fear and betrayal, like the embodiment of their doubts given life. What is that? Clara gasped, her voice trembling, body frozen in horror. The figure extended its nebulous form towards them, tendrils reaching out as if to grasp their history, their regrets. I am what you fear to face, it hissed, voice slick like oil. I am your darkness, and I shall consume you. A cold chill wrapped around her heart. The fear spread, threatening to envelope the hope they had been so fiercely clinging to. Clara felt her conviction waver for a heartbeat, every terrified thought clashing in her mind. Fight it. Don't lose yourself. She shouted with every ounce of strength she could muster. Yet doubt gnawed at her. What if this was the real enemy? Were they strong enough to confront not just the monk, but the darkness within themselves? Just as the creature advanced, ready to strike, the ground beneath them ruptured with a blinding light, forcing Clara to shield her eyes. Was it their light or something else? As her vision cleared, she gasped. The monk stood trembling, flickers of terror overtaking his expression, suddenly aware that the greatest threat wasn't their collective power but something much deeper, what lay in the shadows beyond them. Would they be brave enough to confront it? The ground quaked violently, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. Clara staggered, grappling with the sense of reality unraveling around them. The monstrous figure loomed ever closer, its desires twisted into cruel intentions, forcing her to battle with her deepest fears, the very doubts that had plagued every moment of her life. Leo's grip tightened around her hand, grounding her amidst the turmoil. Stay with me, Clara. He urged, his voice a lifeline reaching through the chaos. She looked into his eyes, drawing from his courage. They weren't just fighting for their lives, they were fighting for the stories that had led each of their souls to this harrowing moment. The monk, trembling, appeared to wrestle with his own dread. No. He whispered, voice tinged with disbelief. This cannot be. I command you. But the creature only twisted its form, feeding on the monk's fear, its laughter echoing like thunder, reverberating through the chamber. Clara felt the shadows shift, elongating as if hungry for their despair. But within her, a flame kindled. She closed her eyes, envisioning all the moments of her life, the laughter, the friendships, the love. She poured that warmth into the circle, fueling the collective energy. Together, she breathed, and those near her echoed back, a litany of resolve. Together. They shouted, voices rising in defiance. She opened her eyes, and the brilliance of their unity erupted anew. Waves of shimmering light surged throughout the chamber, sweeping towards the creature and the monk, warding off the encroaching darkness that threatened to drown them. Can you see it? Clara breathed out, captivated by the growing radiance. It was not merely a light, it was life itself, their joys, hopes, and shared experiences, entwined and vibrant. The creature hissed, tendrils recoiling from the oncoming light. You think your love will save you? It is an illusion. Its voice dropped into a vicious growl, punctuating each word with menace. Yet as the shadows recoiled, Clara felt something shift under her skin, a pulse, a fire igniting in her chest, and she wouldn't let it flicker out. Leo, we need to draw it in. We have to confront this darkness. We can't just let it fester. Leo nodded, determination sparking in his eyes. We face this head on. Pull it in. All the pain, all the doubt, bring it out and let it burn. With a primal scream, they pulled the shadow closer, inviting it to take form. Clara felt the tug of her own insecurities, but she clung to the light, refusing to back down. The creature shrieked, tendrils writhing as it came alive with their fears. The monk stumbled backward, eyes wide as terror etched into his face. "No. You will regret this." Clara took a deep breath, feeling each heartbeat resonate, anchoring her resolve, reminding her of what she had to protect. "Only if we allow it," she screamed. The group surged forward, the fire of their connected spirits burning brighter, combating the thick darkness, just as the two forces clashed, casting a blinding light throughout the chamber. A disorienting silence enveloped them. Time appeared to halt, then they exploded into a kaleidoscope of light and shadow. Clara could barely comprehend it. She felt both liberating and terrifying, as if every nerve was singing, and in that storm of energy, Clara caught a flicker of a familiar face in the gloom. A face she recognized, a face from her past that had been lost. "Lily," she gasped. But before she could reach out, the light began to dim, and the shadows shrank back, but not before she glimpsed something horrific lurking close behind Lily. Something dark and monstrous, gnashing its teeth, hungry for despair. Clara's breath caught, heart racing. She would have to confront not only this embodiment of collective fears but something more personal and painful than she had ever dared to face. Could she summon the strength to face Lily's fate? Would the bond with her friends be enough to survive what lurked in the depths? Each question echoed in her mind, both a warning and a challenge. She steeled herself, knowing that the true darkness lay ahead, waiting to unveil its terrible truth. Would they have the courage to break through, or would they fall back into the shadows forever? The air crackled with tension, a living entity in its own right, wrapping tight around Clara's throat, choking her thoughts as the light she had conjured began to fade. The chamber felt smaller, walls closing in, as reality twisted and morphed in and out of her senses. The echoes of earlier laughter seemed mockingly distant now, swallowed by the creature that lurked just behind Lily's familiar face. "Stay focused," Leo shouted, his voice slicing through the weight of silence. He stepped forward, drawing closer to the flickering light, and Clara saw determination etched into his every feature. They could not crumble now. Instead, they had to reshape the shadows. The very air quivered with shared fervor, the group amplifying each other's strength, but Clara could feel the doubts creeping back in. What if it was all an illusion? Lily's eyes glistened, like stars drowned in darkness. "Clara," she whispered, her voice carrying a sweetness that was tainted with despair. "You shouldn't have come. You can't save us." A tremor swept through Clara. "What happened to you?" She pressed on, though every instinct screamed at her to run from the truth. Behind Lily, the monstrous shadow writhed, a grotesque amalgamation of teeth and claws. It snickered like a predator teasing its prey, its low, reverberating growl harmonizing with the frightened hearts around them. The monk was still there, trembling, but now his gaze was more focused, his eyes locked on Clara. "You don't know what you're up against." He pointed a shaking finger toward the dark mass. "It feeds on despair and regrets. Look how it lures you." A rush of anger surged through Clara. This was no time for weakness. It won't win. Not today. No more. She gripped Leo's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of his courage bolstering her. "We have our stories. They're our power. Your power." The creature hissed, its voice slithering like a serpent. "They'll be your downfall." The shadow lunged forward, the world exploding into a furious swirl of blackness and blinding light. Clara's heart pounded against her ribcage, an urgent reminder of her humanity. She froze for a moment, overwhelmed, and within that breath, doubt threatened to swallow her whole. "Clara." Leo's voice broke through the chaos, steadying her again. There was urgency in his tone, and she knew he was right. This was their moment. Together. She shouted, feeling the pulse of everyone around her sink with her own. They had to transform the monster's darkness into something born of light. Clara dug deep into her reservoir of fears, pulling each thin thread of regret and pain into sight, allowing them to manifest. It was a risky gamble, but she had faced this head-on. In her chest, the fire spread, she could feel her heart igniting, almost like the glow of their shared resolve was pulling the shadows in like a magnet. The creature recoiled, that malicious smile faltering, if only for a second. Clara let a fierce howl erupt from her lungs. "You will not take my light." Leo and the others joined her, roaring with ferocity that shook the foundation of the chamber. The walls vibrated, the energy shifting. Clara glanced at Lily's haunted visage. "We will bring you back. We won. Let it win." A blinding explosion rippled through the chamber, illuminating every crack and crevice, throwing back the darkness, but the creature lashed out, hissing venomously. Clara felt a sharp stab of fear, but with each pulse of their combined strength, they pushed forward. Then, just as she thought victory was within reach, the darkness flickered, revealing new horrors behind its veil. Figures trapped in the shadows emerged, horrified faces twisted with agony, groaning in despair. Clara gasped, the sight crashing into her heart like a tidal wave. "What is this?" The creature cackled, its laughter a cacophony of madness. "These are your memories, Clara. Your failures. Face them or they will consume you." She felt Leo's grip go slack momentarily as terror seeped into the edges of their circle. But this was not just about fighting. It was about acknowledging their stories, their failures, embracing the light in those moments of darkness. Clara's breath quickened as she took a tentative step forward, ready to confront the truth that lived in her past. As she advanced, another face emerged from the depths of darkness, smiles twisting into haunting frowns. Someone she never expected. "Clara." It whispered, and her world threatened to collapse entirely anew. Who was this person? And what part of her was tied to this darkness? In that moment, as shadows danced around her, Clara understood, the real battle was just beginning. Would the strength of every relationship and moment shared be enough to restore the light, or would it be dragged under by the weight of their darkest regrets? The silence fell heavy after Clara's revelation. Time twisted, seconds swelling and stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. As she stepped forward, shadows surged, swirling with the desperate energy of the past. Faces emerged, moments she had buried deep, emotions she had tried to silence. Memories washed over her, some joyful, some haunting, each one bringing with it a tide of regret. Clara came a whisper laced with longing, piercing through the darkness. It was Lily. "It can't be," Clara breathed, stepping deeper into the fray, feeling the heat radiating from fear and recognition. The clamor of shadows shrieked around her, while Clara searched Lily's face for clarity. The light flickered dimly, reflecting the turmoil within her heart. "Remember me?" Lily's voice trembled, a fragile note amid the chaos. "You promised you'd never forget." "Of course I remember. But I thought you." Clara's voice wavered, emotion tangled with disbelief. "I'm trapped here, Clara," Lily whispered, sadness washing over her like cold waves. "Caught in this abyss, and it feeds off your pain. We're all tied to it." Around them, the darkness roiled, mimicking Clara's internal struggle. Each haunting face drew nearer, pulling at her resolve. Could she really withstand this onslaught? Clara felt her heart race, a frightened rabbit cornered, yet a flicker of defiance ignited within her. "Stay with me," she shouted, forcing her voice through the quaking shadows. "You don't belong here, Lily. No one does. Why fight what you cannot escape?" The creature hissed, wrapping around her thoughts like a suffocating vine. "You are not strong enough. Watch me," Clara retorted, advancing toward the darkness. "Together, we can overcome you. You are nothing against our light." With a deep breath, Clara gathered her strength, ready to face the swirling memories that taunted her. She had felt so small, so powerless before. But now, she was a cyclone of unity, fierce determination spurring her friends to rally alongside her. "I exist in every tear you shed, every moment lost. You can't outrun me." The figure of regret thrived, blurring into a monstrous shadow seeking to claw at her spirit. But Clara pressed on. Then let me face you. Let me embrace what hurt. She shouted, drawing upon the painful memories, realizing the power stemmed not from denying them but from accepting and embracing them. Every regret was a story woven into the fabric of who she had become. She could feel the energy surging from her companions, interlocking their souls, quelling her fears. We all have our shadows, but they won't consume us if we stand united. The room shuddered around them, darkness and light battling like titans. She lifted her chin, voice soaring above the cacophony. We are not just our shadows. The energy sparkled with white-hot intensity, illuminating the chamber. Together, their chants of defiance merged, cascading like a waterfall. We choose to rise. We choose to shine. Each word struck at the core of their shared truth, a bond forged through suffering and joy alike. As Clara faced her dark reflection, she grappled with the pain. You win. She bellowed. You are part of me, yes, but I refuse to succumb to you. The creature hesitated, its form flickering, but Clara was unyielding, standing strong in conviction. With every ounce of her will, she envisioned a bright light, radiating like sunlight piercing through a stormy sky. We will not hide in shadows, our stories become our strength. The monk lurked behind them, fury rising, darkness swirling around him as he screamed, You are fools. But Clara could feel it, the weight of their simple, unyielding courage, forces unbound existed within them. The glowing energy surged again, swallowing their torment, washing over them like a burst of exhilarating warmth. The monstrous figure howled, its embodiment of darkness recoiling against the light. Now! Clara shouted. Stand firm. Together. They united again, pouring emotion into one overwhelming pulse to cast back the shadows. Their experiences fused like a mighty shield, ready to combat the darkness. In an explosive surge, the mingling lights expanded, breaking free of shadows, enveloping Clara and the others in a divine glow. The chamber dimmed, and in that moment, the rift shriveled. The darkness writhed, defeated beneath their combined resilience, a swirling mass of despair transforming into light. As the glow intensified, the figures of Lily and forgotten souls shimmered, caught between realms, but there was an undeniable shift, hope emerging between their shattered edges. Clara stepped back, realizing they weren't alone, they would never truly vanish. Lily. Clara reached for her friend, pulling at the frayed memories connecting them. You must trust the light. It can guide you. Holding hands with Leo, Clara felt the pulse of unity echo within the room. The light brightened, filling the space with warmth and reassurance, banishing the shadows that fed off grief, allowing the women's collective memories to rise. The energy peaked, surging like a tide through their circle, illuminating the dark corners of their fears. Shadows shrieked as they were unfurled beneath the brilliance of the truth. They were part of the tapestry but not its captors. Now! Let it go! Clara shouted, feeling the last threads of darkness evaporate, vaporized by their strength, memories unraveling into streams of light. Clara saw smiles, hope reflected from former loss, an essence she would never forget was passing through. Together! Sang the group, eyes shimmering with bravery, fear transformed by luminous light. In mere moments, the chamber erupted as light conquered shadow, illuminating the truth of who they were. Clara felt an exhilarating rush, a moment of unbroken victory. Comfort swirled around them, lifting, releasing them from the fortress of despair forged by darkness. Tears flooded Clara's eyes as hope ignited once more, raw and beautiful. As silence enveloped them, the last vestiges of dread fell away like leaves in the wind. They stood together, bathed in light, free. Free to reclaim themselves, to carry forward every scar and story and let them weave new beginnings. We did it! Clara exclaimed, laughter bursting forth, echoing through their circle. And as they pulsed forward, embracing each other, they felt the undeniable bonds of connection forged by every moment, every decision. They were the sum of their parts, empowered, luminous, and alive. As dawn slowly broke on the horizon, light spilled over the remnants of the shadows, casting everything anew. The village awoke, unaware of the darkness that had haunted them, now quelled for good. A new day had dawned, and Clara could sense the whispers of endless possibilities. "Let us celebrate our power, our victory," she whispered, feeling the warmth of her friends wrap around her. And in that sacred moment, they resolved to honor their roots, to share their stories, empowering others to rise above their own fears and darkness. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Click that bell so you don't miss a single story that could change everything. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your thoughts about this epic conclusion. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring finish.